My name is Brian O'Brien. It's one of those names that when you walk into the audition room, they immediately start talking to you about your name as opposed to your skills or your talent or anything like that. They say, is it real? Where did it come from? Did your parents run out of names? You know, and when I was a young kid, the name was a little bit sort of daunting because people are like, Brian O'Brien, or Brian O'Brien, 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 O'Brien. I grew up in Monmouth Beach, New Jersey, which is about an hour and a half south of New York. So accessibility to New York was not that difficult, so we could get in to see shows many times. When I was in high school, we'd do sort of a field trip to come up and see Broadway shows. The very first Broadway show I saw was a chorus line, and my sister took me for my birthday. And I remember watching the show and thinking, listening to the stories of those dancers and hearing that they started dancing when they were 5 and 4, and you know, at least in their early childhood. And at this point, I was already in high school. So I was thinking to myself, wow, it's never going to happen for me. It's too late. The real clincher for me was seeing the movie Fame. You know, seeing people jump off cabs and on lunch tables. I was like, that doesn't happen on the Jersey Shore. So I just couldn't wait to get to New York and jump off a cab. I got my sort of real start in theater in my high school. We were fortunate enough to have a very driven director who was a woman who went to the school. And I remember back then, everyone would say, oh, she has her equity card. But one of the skills that I did have was that I could imitate. If you showed me a step, I could do the best I could to imitate it. You know, I may not have the best technique, but I will have the ability to sort of execute that step. So that's pretty much where I got my start. And then I went off to college. I put it all aside. I have a business degree. I then, you know, graduated college, was considering grad school. All of this stuff was happening, and I'm like, God, you know, I still sort of would love to sort of pursue theater. And I pulled together a resume. I had a friend take a picture of me in my den at my apartment in New Jersey, and next thing you know, I was going to an audition for Paper Mill Playhouse for Jesus Christ Superstar. My very first Broadway show was Steel Pier. It had been cast and they had done a workshop, so I sort of missed the boat on getting on board with that project early on. However, right before the show opened, the gentleman who was in the show decided to leave the production, so they ended up having an open call. And it was one of those mornings where you're laying in bed and you hit snooze and you're like, well, you know, are they really going to cast me? You know, you hit snooze one more time, and had I hit snooze for that third time, I would have missed this opportunity. And I went to the audition, and a buddy of mine was leaving the audition. I said, come on, we'll treat it like a dance class. And you start auditioning and you start going through the process and you say, okay, I got this. And then you leave and you keep your fingers crossed and you say your prayers. The phone did ring that afternoon, and it was Tara Rubin calling to say I had been offered my Broadway debut, and I was ecstatic. And you immediately hang up and call your mother, and you're crying and you're saying, it's all worth it, that dinner theater I dragged you to, it's worth it. So there is a great sort of exhilaration to performing and dancing in a Broadway show. Certainly we definitely have to keep in shape, and it's sort of 50-50. By dancing every night, you're staying in shape, but since you're on stage in see-through shirts, you have to stay in shape. So it's sort of this balance, this trade-off that you have. The best part about being on Broadway is I can walk to and from work, which is fantastic. It is a dream come true, and I am part of a legacy and a history that will hopefully continue for many years. And as it turns out, this past season we've had a couple of really great hits, so it seems like we're going to be continuing for a little bit.